It's my nerd world. Welcome to it. I'm Jon Justice. I hope that you are doing fantastic on this post-Triple Force Friday podcast. Here's what's in store for the show this week. It is titled Triple Force Friday, a Star Wars Toy Story. Get it? See what I... Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about my Triple Force Friday details. Before I do, a lot of people, and I haven't addressed this at all on the show, a lot of people have been talking about the world between worlds in Rebels, okay? I'm going to talk about that, not because I think that it has any bearing whatsoever on the rise of Skywalker, but for the actual reason why that Rebels episode and that plot element is very important. This is not going to go the way you think. We're going to talk a little bit about Chris Terrio. There's an article from Empire Magazine. The writer, along with J.J. Abrams, reveals two key questions that will fuel Episode 9. We'll get into your listener feedback this week. Plus, at the end of listener feedback, we will get into some trailer speculation spoilers. I'm going to do it a little bit different this time. So, the trailer is being rumored to drop within a matter of hours, okay? If you consider Monday, right? We're less than, we're about 36 potential hours away, 48 hours away. So I'm going to give you what's being said about this potential trailer. So a bonus to you if you're listening to this on Saturday or Sunday heading into Monday. And then, of course, if the trailer does drop, I will absolutely be putting up a bonus podcast breaking down my instinctive reaction to the trailer. Again, assuming it drops on Monday. One more quick note before we officially get the show underway. If you are listening to this on Saturday, and I know this is oddly specific, but if you are listening to this on Saturday, this is where I talk about my science fiction space opera series, EMBARK. I just want to let you know that for today only, you can pick up EMBARK for free and Treasure in Darkness for less than $1, for 99 cents. That's just for today, especially if you haven't picked up the audiobook for either, and specifically the audiobook for Treasure in Darkness, which is available now. Because by picking up, even if you don't read ebooks, if you just spend the $1 to get the ebook, gift it to a friend, you can do it right there on Amazon. You can pick up the audiobook from Audible for like half price. So it's almost 10 hours of entertainment. You can get it for like $7.50, I think. Plus, it's free with an Audible trial. So if you want to just try it out, get an Audible trial, give the audiobook a shot, and then if you don't want to keep using Audible, just cancel, and it doesn't cost you a dime. So again, if you're listening to this on Saturday, this is a fantastic opportunity to take advantage of this special price. It will be going back up on Sunday to $2.99 for each ebook, regular price for the paperback, and it's going to stay that way for quite a while. So this is going to be one of your last opportunities to pick up either book at this discounted price. And as I always say every week, this is the way that you can go and support the My Nerd World, a Star Wars podcast. Pick up a copy of the book, gift it to a friend, and always leave a positive review on Amazon.com. That will really help me out. All right. So we'll talk again about the book at the end of the show. It's part of my promotion to try to get more individuals reading my books and my series of books as I continue to hammer away on book 3. So let's get back into Star Wars and go ahead and make this show official. Really glad you're with the show this week. I appreciate it.
We've passed on all we know. 1,000 generations live in you now. But this is your fight.
What you started.
Who are you?
I'm no one. There are stories about what happened.
It's true. All of it.
The Force It's calling to you.
My Nerd Road.
Just let it in.
So I'm in the process of a makeover. I know that sounds weird, right? No, I'm dieting right now, and I'm not. I'm too overweight. Let's just put it that way. I'm not huge, but I need to lose some weight. I could drop about 40 pounds. I'd be super, super happy. I used to be a lot heavier, and something. I love food. So, but right now I'm in the middle of doing a very low carb sort of keto-esque diet and calorie counting every single day, and making sure that I work out on the elliptical and making a lot of progress and really, really happy about it. I spent some time in Washington, D.C., if you've been listening to the show, with my full-time radio show, walking around and just thinking, you know what, I really need to buckle down and lose some weight. So why am I bringing this up on the Star Wars podcast? Because I'm using Star Wars as my guideposts. I have some goals set, and these are long goals. I'm going to Celebration and Galaxy's Edge next year in Anaheim. I have a very specific weight that I want to be by that point in time, and I've made that goal super long because I know that it's going to be an arduous process, and I want to be realistic about these goals because essentially I'd like to get down to the weight that I'm technically, according to the government, supposed to be. And the first set of those goals is the release of The Rise of Skywalker. All right, so I'm working on my MyFitnessPal, and I've kind of got that opening date in mind of where I want to be weight-wise. And so it's all part of the process. And again, I bring it up because it relates a little bit to the story I'm going to talk about with Rebels, but just how much Star Wars impacts our lives for those of us that listen to podcasts like this and create podcasts like this. And I don't know, so far this using Star Wars as my guidepost has been more successful than like any other effort that I've had in the past. But today it's Saturday, on the weekend you eat a little bit more, so I've been spending a lot of time on the elliptical machine, and I decided to spend my hour or so on the elliptical today and watch the last couple of episodes from season 4 of Rebels, and specifically the World Between Worlds episodes. I've seen them a few times, but I hadn't revisited them in quite probably since the show ended, really. I think I probably watched them once when I got the Blu-ray, but not since then. And I'm sure many of you know there's been some podcasters who shall not be named, just like Harry Potter. And they've been focusing, and a lot of people have been speculating on the World Between Worlds entering into the saga and it taking place in the Rise of Skywalker. First off, depending on where you land on the leaks, and we'll talk about the Jedi Paxis and making Star Wars leaks a little bit later on in the show, especially when we get into some of the spoiler trailer talk after listener feedback and a little bit during listener feedback. I don't think that the World Between Worlds is going to enter into the Rise of Skywalker at all. Whether those leaks are true or not, I just don't think that that's a place where that type of element can be introduced in the final film of the Skywalker saga. I will say this, though, that storytelling that Dave Filoni has done, starting with the Clone Wars, and then ending that arc in Rebels. So going back to the Mortis arc in Clone Wars, and then those couple of episodes in Rebels where they go into Ahsoka, is there with Ezra in the World Between Worlds. That is some absolutely fantastic Star Wars storytelling that really doesn't get nearly as much credit. I like Resistance. Of course, Resistance returns this weekend. It's geared a little bit young. I've mentioned this, so I'm not like a hardcore fan. I enjoy it just from a Star Wars aspect, but it doesn't really connect with me because it is geared younger. Rebels is different and Clone Wars is different. And watching those two episodes back to back, where they go to the mining area, and Ezra goes into the portal to the World Between Worlds, and that whole exchange with the Emperor and Ahsoka, and the resolution there, the wolves, all of that is just some absolutely amazing Star Wars deep lore storytelling. And my views on that have shifted quite a bit, even in the past few years, and I'll credit The Last Jedi for this. Again, these are things that I've mentioned often, but it's relevant to this conversation. I love the vehicle element, of Star Wars. I just love the whole aesthetic, right? That's the kind of thing that I really tried to I was really inspired to sort of instill within the stories that I'm writing in EMBARK, that the technology side of it, because that gets me excited, and the war aspect of it, and the battles, and along with the interpersonal relationships. And my stories don't have a lot of mythology attached to it because it's future based, Earth, bound mythology, if you will, right? It is there are themes that we're living in now that would translate into the future, so you don't have a lot of fantasy. There's no fantasy going on, even though some of the tech is a little on the fantastical side because it's set in the future. I've always liked the aspect of the Force, especially when I was younger, and all of the comparisons that had been done to sort of your standard Christian theology, and how that related to the Force. I mean, that was big when I was growing up, so I was always a big fan of that. But, as the years went on, you kind of just want to be entertained, and I like being entertained by Star Wars, and I didn't really gravitate towards the mythological side of it. And The Last Jedi really kind of turned that all around for me. It's not in The Force Awakens, even though it's in the title, with the kind of depth, in my opinion, that it's in with The Last Jedi. And I like the level of depth that Rian Johnson brought to that. And having watched the Last Jedi this week, and those scenes where Rey is training and she goes to the dark and she goes into the dark side cave, and all of the Force shipping scenes, all of that has really reignited my level of interest and fandom on the mythological side of the Force. And so revisiting Rebels today really just was the perfect moment. Again, this belief that I have that everything happens for a reason, that happened for a reason today. I was impacted by both those episodes and what The World Between Worlds was doing, and its significance within that storytelling, within the storytelling of Rebels and those characters, and the storytelling of the Mortis arc in the Clone Wars. And I am perfectly okay, and there's a part of me that actually, for now, would like it to stay there. If another director down the road wants to go and revisit that and sort of inject it into a new set of Star Wars movies, I think there is some potential for some interesting storytelling. I do hope that they don't ever use that to revisit anything from the original films that we know, because if you are familiar with The World Between Worlds, you have these portals where you can sort of connect to a certain moment in time, and you can actually change the outcome of that particular moment in time, and that's what happened with Ahsoka. And the storytelling that was done with the setup of Ahsoka in the earlier part of Rebels, right? Okay. And, of course, the original connection to the Mortis arc going back to Clone Wars. But that original bit, a season or two back in Rebels, where Ahsoka faced off against Vader, that we end up revisiting in those final episodes, is just masterful storytelling. If somebody were to use it in a feature film, again, I hope they don't ever connect it back to the original films, because that could certainly turn things on its head, which is precisely why I do not expect that it is going to end up in The Rise of Skywalker. And certainly, I think some of these leaks are more than likely accurate. There's too many credible sources reporting on too many very consistent things, even though I think the stuff in between might be missing. And that being said, it just, to me, to use that to try to finish out the saga would be a colossal mistake, and I do not see that happening. But again, I just wanted to take a moment and sort of talk about that. The show, I'm imagining, is going to be a little bit shorter this week, because we'll be doing another show, probably because that trailer is going to drop on Monday. Of course, I say that, and I guarantee by the time I get to the end of this, I'm going to be past the 45-minute mark and probably closer to an hour and 20, just like all the shows end up. But I just wanted to bring that up because I like to share those moments in time that I really enjoy when it comes to Star Wars, and perhaps if you're looking for something to close the gap and you're done reading my books, right? or listening to the audiobooks of Embark and Embark Treasure in Darkness, then maybe you're going, hey, you know what? I'll go toss in Rebels and, and rewatch those episodes. And if you've never seen Rebels, you're missing out, man. Use it as your journey to the Rise of Skywalker. It is some absolutely fantastic storytelling. It's great. The jury's still out in my mind which cartoon series was better, Clone Wars or Rebels. And it's tough because every time I go and watch Clone Wars, I go, oh, this is great. And then I go and watch Rebels and I go, oh, this is great too. I love them both so much.
We have a spark that'll light the fire that'll burn the First Order down.
All right, so Triple Force Friday has come and gone. And I've got some words. And this is a little bit of a deviation to the content that I normally share on the show. So if you'll indulge me for a moment before we talk about Chris Terrio revealing his 2 key questions for the final episode, I want to share with you a bit of my Triple Force Friday story. Okay, so really you have to back up to the Force Friday for The Force Awakens. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to go back even further and go back to The Phantom Menace. So I remember living in Tucson when The Phantom Menace came out and the hype surrounding all the toys, right? And this was the first time since the original trilogy era we as fans had the opportunity to purchase brand new toys attached to an official new Star Wars film being Episode 1. And I'm sure most of you know the story. They sold a ton of product and made a ton of product available, so much so that they ended up with a lot of overstock. And a lot of the Phantom Menace stuff just ended up in the bargain bin because they overshot. And it feels like when it comes to the release of the toys for the Star Wars films, Hasbro, right, has forever been trying to nail that day of getting the ratio correct of fan demand, market demand, product release. What does everybody want? I thought what was put out for The Force Awakens was top notch. I don't necessarily remember. I remember Attack of the Clones and going to, oddly, a Walgreens to get the bulk of my figures. And the figure line during the prequel era was fantastic, by the way. The figures for Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith were great. I bought a ton of Attack of the Clones stuff. I bought very little of Revenge of the Sith stuff. That was mostly due to the fact that at the time I just couldn't afford to add to my collection. And as a matter of fact, there was a moment in time where I actually had to sell off a bulk of my collection just because we were tight on money. And thankfully, things have gotten a lot better since then. When The Force Awakens came out, I really thought the release of the toy line was fantastic. The displays set up at Target and Walmart were great. The midnight openings were top notch, right? And they were big fan events, and they really did it. They really did it great. I'm not sure why it all changed with The Last Jedi. You certainly can't attribute the controversy doing that thing with my fingers of The Last Jedi to any of that. The sales for the Force Awakens toys were solid. I know that leading into The Last Jedi, we had the Force Friday attached to Rogue One, and that was not nearly as big of a deal, right? I remember going out, and I remember for Rogue One, it actually was kind of a very muted, and maybe that's where things took a turn. The release for the toys for Rogue One was downplayed quite a bit. They did a Force Friday, but I remember going to the store and just not having everything set up. The same thing happened with The Last Jedi. I went to the same Walmart that I'm going to talk about here in a moment that I went to on Friday. I remember going there on my way to work in the morning because I get to work about 5 a.m. I'm up at 2:30. So if I hit the store about 4 a.m., my 24-hour Walmart, then I got plenty of time to shop. And I remember going for The Last Jedi, and they didn't even have the stuff out. The boxes were just all stacked up in the aisle, and they hadn't even opened anything up yet. And so once work was over, I started making the rounds and picking up the toys that I wanted. And I was pleased with the offering of toys and the vehicles. You had a very good assortment between the Tali Lintra A-Wing. I'm staring at him right now. So the A-Wing, you had Kylo Ren's TIE silencer, the ski speeder, the Canto Bite police vehicle, right? Which I love. I love the design of it. They had a lot. I mean, there's a lot of great product for The Last Jedi. But again, the Force Friday aspect of it just kind of fell flat. So heading into this Force Friday, I was very interested, along with a lot of fans, obviously, and collectors, how this was going to end up playing out. And already there's a lot of question marks on top of how Hasbro is handling this. And the decision to go and scrap the standard 5 POA, which is the 5 points of articulation, that is the 3.75, 5 points of articulation is the standard action figure that we've been getting ever since A New Hope. On the custom card back with a standard figure where the arms and the legs and the head move, that's how you get your 5 points, both arms, both legs, and the head, 5-point POA. And the decision that Hasbro has made to completely ditch that line for now, replace it with this Galaxy of Adventures overly characterized, stylized children line of figures, which I'm not going to be purchasing at all because I don't care for that particular design and style. I liked the toy box versions. I definitely love, and I think I have all of the Disney Infinity, figures that go along with the game. I think those are fantastic, but the new Galaxy of Adventures Rise of Skywalker line, just it's way too kid for me. I want to stick with the standard sort of 3.75. They've done a decent job so far of releasing the Black Series figures, which are expensive. And the only thing that we as fans can get our hands on that is close to those original 3 3/4 inch figures that those of us who've been around long enough have been collecting since the first movie, are the vintage collection figures, of which we only got 5. So I bought the Sith Jet Trooper, the One Knight of Ren, Rey, Poe Dameron, and I'll talk a minute about that, and then also Zori Bliss. I didn't get any of the other The Rise of Skywalker figures. But that's it. For The Rise of Skywalker, those are the only... We've got 5 figures. Now, I hope that the word from the Hasbro CEO is correct, and that, this is only 1/3 of the figures that we're going to get because the rest of them reveal spoilers. I hope that includes a 3 3/4 5 POA edition of these figures, because as a collector, I want to finish off my series of action figures with the same style that I had for all the other ones, especially with the final Saga film. And the Vintage Series collection does fill that void because they are the same size of the 3.75. So it's not that big of a deal, but I'm still sort of scratching my head as to why Hasbro wouldn't give us this final line of standard figures that we've gotten before. Not only that, but we're only getting one vehicle. Now, again, I'm praying that that's because, and I'm a big vehicle collector, I mention it all the time, I'm praying the reason we're only getting the one vehicle, which is awesome, by the way. That's the Vintage Collection, completely redesigned toy of Poe Dameron's orange and white X-Wing from The Rise of Skywalker. The detail on the Vintage Collection vehicles and figures is amazing. They're incredible. I keep mentioning on the show the TIE Fighter that I got from the Vintage Collection is one of my favorite toys ever. It's incredible. Scales spot on for a 3.75 figure. The detail is amazing. The figure is amazing. And I can't wait to get my hands on the Poe Dameron X-Wing, which is part of my story. So going back into my whole day. So I got up and made it over to my Target. And I've been stopping by Targets and Walmarts. I made it to my Walmart. I've been going to Walmarts and Targets all week because I know a lot of stores have been putting product out early. And I love the hunt. I much prefer driving around and looking for toys than to go online and purchase them. I know one day that's probably going to be the only way we're going to be able to get them, but I really just enjoy that experience. I make a whole thing of it. It's part of my fandom. I listen to Star Wars podcasts, or I listen to soundtracks of the films as I drive around to go looking for toys. It's just part of what I do that brings me that brings me joy, right? Okay. So, haven't had any luck finding anything on the shelves early. There's one Walmart that's in between my house and where I work, where they had a couple of items out, some of the Galaxy of Adventure stuff that I mentioned before, but nothing major. So I go to my Walmart at 4 a.m., and the Walmarts have aisle displays, right? Cardboard aisle displays about 4 feet, 4.5 feet high, with little shelves on all four corners. Unfortunately, that obviously had gone up earlier, and some fans had already come by, some collectors had already come by, and what little they had of the vintage collection was gone. And you can tell the stock they didn't receive a lot of stock, because even in the little shelving units in the floor display, they had cardboard dividers to shove the action figures up front, because they didn't have enough to fill the entire space in the display in and of itself. So I picked up my Black Series Rey. I picked up the carbonized version of the Black Series White Jump Trooper, which is pretty awesome. And then I got one other figure from that store. I think it was Rey. I think I picked up Rey. But that was all that I was able to get. They had nothing else. The holy grail for me was that Poe Dameron X-Wing fighter. I want that vehicle. So I went to work, got done with work, and started making the rounds and heading home. First, I went over to a Disney store just west of where I work in St. Paul, and was shocked to get to the Disney store and find out that they had product, but it just wasn't geared to the hardcore fan. And this is the point that I want to drive home. And this is probably the most negative comments you're going to hear from me on the show. I want to be straightforward in my thoughts about this Triple Force Friday. I go into the Disney store, and it was really interesting. In terms of exclusives, Disney has some really amazing detailed figurine sets. That's what they are. They're smaller than the 3 3/4 inch line. They're on stands. They're probably maybe 3 inches, maybe 2.5 inches tall. And they put these out for every film. I've never collected any of these. I have collected their die-cast vehicles, which are awesome. But, of course, they don't have any this year for the Rise of Skywalker. So they had those, the figurines. They had some of the Black Series figures. But that was kind of it. Everything else in the store was geared towards younger ages, which I know makes sense. They had some taller, sort of stylized figures, some Boba Fett and Vader. They had the lightsabers. They had some costumes. A small collection of T-shirts. Almost picked up a T-shirt. They had a T-shirt of that promo poster that leaked so long ago that everybody thought was fake. I almost got that, but I said, let me hold off, because I would just be buying that T-shirt for the sake of buying the T-shirt. It wouldn't be one that I really, really wanted. And they didn't have everything in one place. It was kind of scattered throughout the store. And that was my first sort of head-scratching moment where I went, I don't feel like they're handling, at least in my opinion, this Triple Force Friday, this Force Friday, the way that they should. I trust that the marketing team over at Hasbro, they know the data, they know the demographics, they want to make sure that they're able to capitalize on the number of toys that they produce versus how many get sold. I get all that. I know that consumer demands are changing. I understand all that. But as a collector in his 40s, of which this is arguably going to be one of the last moments like this for quite a long time. If the schedule holds true, we're not going to be in a situation like this for a Force Friday for, a couple of years, right? 2 or 3 years. To me, your Force Friday should be, and I have evidence of this, should be focused on not just getting all the product out, and not all the product that's going to be on the shelves from now until Christmas time that they expect the average consumer walking through the store with their kids going, "Oh, Daddy, I want that stylized Chewbacca. Oh, I want that stylized Kylo Ren. Yeah." No, Force Friday should be for the dudes like me. Because I ran into other dudes like me. And it's no surprise that every different store that I went to, what stock was available? All of the, for lack of a better word, cheesier lightsabers for kids. Okay, but they're for kids, right? So they're relatively inexpensive and meant to be bashed around. They're for children. The Galaxy of Adventure stylized cartoony figures. The movies that have been re-released on Blu-ray, right? And they had some books out. Some of the half masks, right? All the a majority of the Legos, all that stuff was readily available. You know what wasn't? The vintage collection. Those were getting gobbled up left and right. And you want to know why? It's because it's dudes like me that are out to get that stuff, the stuff that we've been buying since our parents bought them for us as gifts before we went to the dentist to encourage us to keep a good attitude when A New Hope came out. Because that's what actually happened. I'm looking at it right now. I'm looking at my IKEA $60 display case. As a matter of fact, while I'm doing the podcast, I'm going to turn my lights on. Look at my collection. It's amazing. I'm looking at the R2-D2 and the C-3PO that my mom purchased for me from the original run from A New Hope when I was a kid. And I can tell you, the only two things that I remember from that age of being 5 years old was seeing Star Wars in the theater, and then probably maybe a year later, depending on when those toys came out, going to the dentist, terrified because I hated going to the dentist, but knowing that when I was done with my dentist trip, my mom was going to be handing me that C-3PO and that R2-D2. Those are the only two memories that I have from the age of 5 that I can remember. I also remember getting my other prize, which oddly not planned, right next to that same C-3PO and R2-D2, is my Empire Strikes Back Snowtrooper, my beloved Empire Strikes Back Snowtrooper. As a kid, I still do, adored that design and figure. That was my Boba Fett. That Empire Strikes Back original Snowtrooper was and still is my favorite, my favorite action figure of all of Star Wars from when I was a kid. Way more than Boba Fett. The design of it was just like, whoa, they changed it. They changed the look of the storm. That's what just blew me away. I never heard of such a thing. They changed the design. They gave him like this weird sort of half skirt thing. If you've read, a little insight, little teaser. If you've read EMBARK Book 2, Treasure in Darkness, I introduced a new set of villain characters in that book. I don't want to ruin anything for anybody. But there's a trio of female assassins in that book. Their design and some of the description of their casual clothing design is directly lifted from that Snowtrooper from The Empire Strikes Back, specifically sort of the half skirt that they wore. Okay, so back to my point. That's what Force Friday should be about. It should be about putting out those particular products. Put them out select, but get them out there for us, the hardcore fans. I know you want to be able to sell to future generations, and I'm down with that. And Hasbro should be, and the film companies should be focusing on the future. I was thinking in my head today that wouldn't it be amazing if at some point Disney, Lucasfilm, even Pixar decided to do the entire Skywalker saga in the same type of animation that we get for the Frozen films and for Tangled and for Cars. How amazing would it be to introduce a new generation of children to Star Wars? Not through the short galaxies of adventures, but tell the stories again, but do them in modern-day animation. That would be incredible. Okay. Put out those products that are going to be on the shelves from now until Christmas that you want to be impulse buys when families go to the store to buy. But treat Force Friday as something for the hardcore collecting fans and give us what we want on that first day. The only thing that's sort of that I'm withholding complete and total judgment on when it comes to sort of criticizing Hasbro for their rollout is this idea that the other toys that are going to be released contain so many spoilers they just can't put them out right now. I don't know exactly how that is. I mean, we know there's plenty of new vehicles. They're putting out an A-Wing, the green A-Wing in Lego form. There's the red Y-Wing that's going to be in Lego form. We know that there are the new TIE Whisper There's new Special Forces ties. I don't know why they couldn't have put any of those vehicles out. I do not understand that, unless it was something that changed in the creative process. The only other excuse that I can think of is that because of the shift in directors and the amount of time that J.J. Abrams and Chris Terrio needed to go and write the story for The Rise of Skywalker, perhaps they didn't have enough of the details down for the vehicles in order to give them to the manufacturers in time for this Force Friday release. I'm trying to give them all the excuses that they can. So I went by one particular Walmart after my trip to the Disney store, and thankfully that Walmart, I wasn't too surprised. I kind of expected it. This particular Walmart seems to have just a ton of stock, and it looks like a bomb has gone off in every single aisle. Because I've never seen a Walmart packed with so much product that it was in such total disarray. And I'm like, you know what? If any store is going to have a bunch of Star Wars toys left, it's probably this one, because I doubt a lot of collectors are going to be going to this particular Walmart to go and get their Star Wars toys in Brooklyn Center, Minnesota. And sure enough, they had the display out, and I was able to pick up the remainder of the vintage collection figures. Also, while I was there, I picked up the Mandalorian Black Series, and I bought Kylo Ren because I wanted to get something from the Disney store. I got the new Kylo Ren from the Disney store, and the bonus that I got, there was one bonus from the Disney store that actually sort of really made my Force Friday all worthwhile, and kind of stripped away any of the negativity that I might have had. But Disney gave out these really nice lithographs of the teaser poster for The Rise of Skywalker, the teaser poster for The Mandalorian, and the poster for Jedi Fallen Order in these lithographs. And these are amazing. I really love getting that type of little posters. I've got a frame that I can go and throw these in. I was really, really excited to get those, so that really made my day. So after I was done with Walmart, I hit one of the larger Targets where I live, and you walk into the store. To the left, they got a massive Frozen display. I mean, a whole section devoted to Frozen. And I go back to the toy aisle, and there's another guy there, probably my age, and they're still taking stuff out of boxes and still building the display. This was 11 o'clock in the morning now? 10:30, 11 o'clock? And we're kind of looking around, and I want to start digging through boxes to see if I'm missing anything, but I don't want to be rude. And I look at the employee there. I said, hey, we're here for Star Wars toys, hoping maybe he'll turn around and use his box cutter and open up some of the boxes and let us rifle through it. And he goes, yeah, I'm just building this display. But there's a whole section in the middle of clothing that's already up. And I was like, oh, okay. So me and this other guy walk over to this other section, and they were still building the display. They didn't even have everything out yet. But guess what was out and gone already? The vintage collection. Now, thankfully, like I said, there wasn't, I'd already picked up my vintage collection figures. But again, it was another example of the fandom wants that particular product. And the one thing that I was looking for, which was Poe Dameron's X-Wing, the employees there were nice. And the reason they gave for not having the display up, they said, was because they didn't have any overnight crews anymore. And so because they didn't have any overnight crews anymore, they weren't able to put the display up beforehand. And a lot of them said, you know what, if we had known people were going to be here beforehand, or they had made a bigger deal about it, we would have built it already. She looked up in the Target system. There wasn't a single Target anywhere nearby that was going to carry the Poe Dameron X-Wing. I mean, they had it on their website, but not a single store had it to buy on the day. So I what did I pick? Oh, I did pick up a larger 12-inch figure of the Sith Trooper because I just absolutely love the Sith Trooper. And I headed out to the car, planning on making one more stop, which I did. And it was a very similar experience at my own personal Target. They hadn't had the display, wasn't done yet, and it didn't seem like they had any different product. I'm also looking for the Hot Wheels vehicles, and I don't think anybody's put those out yet. I may actually make the rounds later on today just to get out of the house for a bit to see if maybe somebody had an extra box and put that out. But I went to the car, I went to Amazon and bit the bullet and found not only the Poe Dameron Vintage Collection X-Wing, but also the carbonized Sith Trooper, which I really want because the carbonized version of the Sith Trooper looks amazing. And I ended up ordering them on Amazon. And they're on Amazon Prime. And again, I'm recording this on Saturday. The X-Wing will be here tomorrow, which is cool. And then my carbonized Sith Trooper should be here sometime in the next few days or so. But that was it. That was sort of the extent of my Force Friday. It was very anticlimactic. Now, I really got bummed out because when I got home, I was texting with my buddy Zach over at Knights of Vader, and he pointed out that apparently Barnes & Noble, which I should have known, Barnes & Noble was carrying a decent stock of product, and sure enough, the Barnes & Noble was actually carrying the Vintage Collection X-Wing fighter. And if I had known that, I wouldn't have ordered it off Amazon because I would have much rather gone into a physical store and purchased it. So I again, just disappointed. I wish that, and I hope that those other toys make it onto the shelves soon. I almost feel like if they are really holding back that much product from the Rise of Skywalker, then it's like we're going to have a whole other, like even a better opening release of toys than what we got for Triple Force Friday. I'm looking at my stack of toys, and I'm happy. The only reason I'm not happy is because I don't have any more vehicles, and I love collecting the vehicles. As a matter of fact, I had listeners to the show online going, "Why didn't?" Because I posted a picture up online of my haul from the weekend. They were like, "Why didn't you have any vehicles?" I'm like, "Because they didn't make any vehicles available." They had the Tread Speeder, which we've see briefly in the teaser trailer. Was also the actual physical version was on display at Celebration. The Tread Speeder was there, but again, that was attached to the 5-inch Galaxy of Adventures line, and I'm like, well, I know beggars can't be choosers, but I just, again, as a collector, it was kind of a bummer, But again, looking at my collection, I'm happy and be happy for what you got. I'm really happy with those lithographs. Those lithographs are awesome, and I can't wait to get that X-Wing coming up in the mail tomorrow. All right, let's go ahead and get into some actual Star Wars content material.
I need someone.
Oh, you know what? That's the wrong one. I'm sorry. That's for when I do listener feedback. How about this one instead?
Something
That's better.
inside me has always been there. But now it's awake. And I need help.
Empire Magazine, Ben Travis, writes this. The final act of Star Wars, The Last Jedi, leaves some tantalizing threads for the upcoming 9th episode, The Rise of Skywalker, to pick up. Rey proves that her mentor, Luke Skywalker, will not be the last Jedi, and rescues the dying members of the Resistance. Kylo Ren, faced with another opportunity to abandon the dark side and come to the light, leans further into his villainy and becomes supreme leader of the First Order, and Luke Skywalker seemingly becomes one with the Force after projecting himself onto the battlefield of Crate. God, that movie is so amazing. I adore that film. It offers plenty for J.J. Abrams, returning as writer-director and his co-writer, Argo scribe Chris Terrio, to work with in the final chapter. And Terrio revealed to Empire the key questions that fuel the final film in the Skywalker saga. One quick point. Empire Magazine is a British publication. I just want to point something out. When was the last time you heard this written in an English publication about The Last Jedi? Talking about The Last Jedi, simply laying out what happened in The Last Jedi, and then going so far as to say, The Last Jedi, it offers plenty for J.J. Abrams returning as writer and director and his co-star, Argo scribe Chris Terrio, to work with in the final chapter. You don't get that kind of straightforward reporting and accurate assessment of The Last Jedi with American publications. They're all tinged with the negativity surrounding that film from the fandom menace portion of the fandom. And it speaks to the number of people who listen to this show that have been kind enough to email talkshownerd@gmail.com or write me on YouTube, who live overseas, who have consistently told me, yeah, we don't get hung up on stuff. There was a comment that we had last week of somebody saying, yeah, in Europe, when the fans don't like a movie, they just say, yeah, I didn't care for it. And then they don't talk about it anymore. The hang-ups over diversity, right? Regardless of where you land on that, right? The hang-ups over diversity, yeah, we don't really deal with any of that, right? The controversy, the stupid controversy that surrounded Finn in the first movie, being a black stormtrooper. on both sides. The people that have been upset and emailed me upset that Finn didn't get a proper relationship with Rey, and he was the one that should have. That would have been a better way to be inclusive and show diversity. The people that got upset that Rose was included in the Last Jedi, and now the people that are upset that apparently, even though they haven't seen the film, are upset that Rose isn't getting her due in The Rise of Skywalker. This little bit of reporting here from Ben Travis in Empire Magazine really speaks to just sort of the difference in the way that pop culture is viewed. And honestly, I don't think that we should ever in America adopt, European politics by any stretch of the imagination. I like America the way that it is. I think it's pretty great. That being said, boy, pop culture could adopt some of the social norms that they have over in Europe versus what we deal with here in America. All right. Chris Terrio says this. Of the key questions the final film of the Skywalker saga will answer. One of them is a simple one, who is Rey, he says, which is a question that people not only wonder about quite literally, but wonder about in the spiritual sense. How can Rey become the spiritual heir to the Jedi? We kept coming back to who is Rey, and how can we give the most satisfying answer to that, not only factually, because obviously people are interested in whether there's more to be learned of Rey's story, but more importantly, who is she as a character? How will she find the courage and will and inner strength and power to carry on what she's inherited? He continues. The second one is, how strong is the Force? It sounds a little simple, but actually, when you get down to it, that is sort of the Zen koan that we really meditate on. Not literally in yoga poses or anything, but like we would discuss. What is the Force and how strong is the Force? Those two things were really important. So there you have it. Who is Rey and how strong is the Force are the two driving ideas behind Episode 9. That, and presumably, how many porgs can you fit into the cockpit of the Millennium Falcon? Look, a lot of people picked up on this and have obviously given their own thoughts and commentary. I just thought it was cool. And I really do attribute a lot of this to, and Chris Terrio went on to talk about what he liked about The Last Jedi and what The Last Jedi did with Rey and Kylo Ren / Ben, and how that really set up the way that they were going to sort of pick up on those threads, those red threads of fate, in The Rise of Skywalker. And more details that get me hyped for this film. I think this is really going to be an incredible movie at the end of the day. And we'll get to what that trailer might be that's going to allegedly drop on Monday here in just a bit. But even before seeing that trailer, my expectation is pretty damn high for this movie. And I'm also pretty confident that it's absolutely going to deliver.
I need someone to show me my place in all this.
You can always email TalkShowNerd@gmail.com. And hey, look, it became a regular-sized show. I knew that it would. I should never try to do a short show, right? Why should I bother? I have too much to say when it comes to Star Wars. Okay, Aaron starts off with listener feedback again. TalkShowNerd@gmail.com, or leave a comment on YouTube. Why I don't believe the Jedi Paxis leaks. Okay. I'm going to skip through a bunch of what this happens to say because Aaron gets into a lot of these leaks. A couple of bullet points is they talk about the use of a CGI Leia, not using a CGI Leia, and based off the leaks, Aaron is of the opinion that would push back against what they said about Leia. They also talk about how there are completely different leaks to the ones that we got a few months ago. And that a lot of this info seems like they're pulling it out of their butts. She ends the message with, "I need a trailer ASAP." Yeah, I really do think that the trailer is going to answer a lot of questions about whether or not these leaks are legit. And quite honestly, look, for me right now, I think a lot of them are. The moderators over at the Reddit Leaks pager do a really good job. Spartacus, not Spartacus, does a really good job of sort of weeding out the bogus information. And I know that the majority of the bullet points from the Jedi Paxis leaks and Making Star Wars have lined up. So there's obviously a lot of stuff in between that we don't know about. And according to Bespin Bulletin, there was some reshoots being done this week at Bad Robot. And we know that there were reshoots that were done recently at Black Park. So there could be some very big portions of the film that may be changing. At a bare minimum, it could just be pickup shots. All right. Friend of the show, Jennifer Oliver, writes this. It was the sequel trilogy that brought the prequels to me, even though they came after. I really don't remember seeing the trailers for the prequels, but it was the first year I was out on my own after college as a grown-up, and I had loved Star Wars so much my whole life, watching it every time I could on TV. I think I was afraid of being disappointed, so I literally, watching it every time I caught it on TV, that I think I was afraid of being disappointed, so I literally opted out. Once Force Awakens came out, my oldest was old enough to go to a Star Wars movie, and I remember almost overthinking it, like, wait, should I have her watch 4, 5, and 6 first? What if she doesn't like this one, and then doesn't want to watch the original trilogy? But then, threw caution to the wind, and off we went. We loved it. And then I went and finally bought the original trilogy on Blu-ray, and even though the prequels, even then the prequels, and we love them too now, what the sequel trilogy did for me was show me that the prequels have a place that is important and necessary. I love to read, and this opened up books to me too that wouldn't have made sense otherwise, like Master and Apprentice and the Second Thrawn book. So TFA was the spark that lit the fire for TLJ, a true masterpiece. However, the Rise of Skywalker turns out. I trust these content creators with their story. I have learned not to be such a cautious fan, but to dive in headfirst, excited, and just enjoy. I like the way you think, Jennifer Oliver, and I hope for their sake everyone can do that. Thanks as always. I appreciate it. All right, friend of the show, Shlomo, says this. After listening to your commentary last week on how you would be satisfied with the ending being posted online by an online leak forum, I carefully considered what I would find as a satisfying ending and came to only one conclusion that would probably reunite the fan base. I'm going to stop here real quick. I don't know if the fan base can ever be reunited. I'll be completely honest with you. And I think that's already visible. I mean, depending on where you land on Reylo, depending on where you are with the Phantom Menace and your thoughts of The Last Jedi, there's just no way this movie is going to be able to appeal to everybody. At least I don't believe so. And that's okay. I just think it's the world we live in. I just don't think we live in a world anymore where we're going to be allowed to unify together because of the ability that people have to randomly share every single thought that crosses through their mind anonymously on Twitter without any sort of thought as to whether or not they should be sharing that thought online. Here's Shlomo's idea. The Emperor in his throne room has struck down Rey and Ben, who lie writhing in agony on the floor. This is just his speculation on how he'd like to see it end. With missing limbs, the Emperor cackles from atop his pedestal, raising his hands to end their lives in a final fury of hate-field force lightning. When with a purple flash, he is sliced in two from the shoulder to the hip by a lightsaber blow from behind. The look of shock and bewilderment on his face is frozen in time. His body slips apart, revealing a very angry-looking Mace Windu behind him. Told you I was going to end it once and for all. Mace walks away, audience cheers, and somewhere far away, George Lucas sheds a tear of delight. I can dream, can I? You know what? I would actually... I mean, you're going deep, right, in doing that, and you'd have to have nerves of steel, for lack of going the other way of blanks of steel. You'd have to be pretty bold to finish the Star Wars saga out that way. But you know what? It would make a certain level of sense. Let's say, for the sake of argument, that Mace Windu survived that fall and has been in hiding and exile this whole time, and he happens to show up right at the last moment, although he'd probably be too old, right? I don't know. I'm with you, Shlomo. I don't think it's going to happen. It's not. No, I mean, back up. That's not going to happen. But boy, that would be interesting if it did. All right. Severin Weichman writes, a friend of the show, I love Reylo. Capital letters, 2 exclamation points. On a side note, I can't wait to start reading EMBARK. I can't wait for you to start reading EMBARK. Hey, did I mention if you're listening to this on Saturday, you can pick up the ebook right now for free? And Treasure in Darkness, that's book 2 for just 99 cents. Go get it at Amazon.com. And if you're listening to this on Sunday, then go get it anyways. It's just going to cost you just a few more bucks. I'm waiting for book 3 to come out so I can binge read all 3. So in the meantime, I'm reading C.S. Lewis's Space Trilogy. Don't wait, Severin. Go get your copy today. You do whatever you want. But if you want to go buy it today, that would be pretty rad. I, too, recently flew to D.C. to Denver, and on my way home to Wyoming, and on the flight, I was reading the Space Trilogy. It was amazing because we're experiencing a lot of turbulence right when the main character was in a suffocating, tiny, hot spaceship flying too close to the sun in the more harrowing part of the book. It was a creepy, awesome experience, and I'll always think back to the bumpy, cramped plane I was in whenever I read about bad spaceships from now on. I'm sure the scene you wrote for EMBARK 3 is going to be on point. Yes, it is, Severin. Actually did some writing today, too. I can't wait to get that book done. All right, thanks for the email. All right, Scotian says this. Hey, John, I figured I would send an email this week instead of commenting, just for a change of pace. Listen to this week's show, listener feedback, appreciate your humor, ability to see both sides. Thank you, Scotian, I appreciate that. I'm sorry that other guy at the beginning said such rude things that was totally uncalled for. You're a pretty rad guy and the only podcast I still listen to. And I appreciate the detractors. It offered me a chance to be sarcastic, and that's always fun for me. You're 100% correct in that we all have our own expectations and our own way of dealing with how we enjoy these films. I'm a newer fan. I've only been into Star Wars since the sequel trilogy came out, but I know how storytelling works. It's in my background. I just want to leave with this. I'm not saying romantic Reylo has to happen, but Disney has to be very careful with how they handle Kylo in this movie, and the leaks do not handle him well. The only thing I can think of is they plan to bring him back for something else later on. Okay. Just based off of what Adam Driver has said in past interviews, if this is how they end the story, and particularly this character, I can't see him having signed off for that, considering it took 6 months to think about taking the position. Just my thoughts. I think/hope we are missing beats. The Last Jedi will always remain one of my favorite Star Wars movies outside of Empire. Hey, if The Rise of Skywalker ends up being exactly what the fanboys want, I'll just save my multiple rewatches for Rian Johnson's trilogy. Thanks for the show. Peace. Peace to you, Scotian. Appreciate that. All right. Brett writes this. I love that you're excited for this movie and that you have the mindset of it not letting you down if certain things don't happen. May the Jorce be with you. That's funny. I personally can't wait for The Rise of Skywalker. The Jorce. That's the first I've ever seen that. That's brilliant. That's bloody brilliant. That's my horrible British accent. I apologize if you're British. I'll never do it again. Well, I shouldn't make that promise. I might. Maybe next time it'll be better. Skydrathic, friend of the show, recently followed me on Twitter. I was very excited about that. At Jon, Jon Justice, or at The My Nerd World. I love that you decided to talk more about canon info and leave aside the leaks for a bit. I fully understand how throwing the leaks are, but this is a line I will not cross. And you shouldn't have to, Skydrathic. Therefore, I'm super glad you somewhat changed the material so we can tune in and listen and enjoy the show after all. Maybe you go simply switch it and put the spoiler talk at the very end. Hey, you know what, Skydrathic? I read your comment before I actually read it on the show, and that's exactly why I'm putting the trailer spoiler talk after listener feedback this week. Thank you, as always, for the comment. I appreciate it. Love me for myself alone, says this. I'm with Ken Knapsack, too. Taking Star Wars as something historical. It is a wise way to enjoy the franchise for the piece of pure entertainment that it is. However, if we were to be fastidious about the matter, we should not forget the inevitability found in history. Ooh, my goodness gracious, we go deep here. Hitler, the revolution, the birth of the UN. Just pick a few historical events. It didn't come out of nowhere. Star Wars, as a fantasy, needs to be consistent with what came before, with its history, in order to make it plausible or believable. J.J. Abrams has been repeating again and again that his challenge with The Rise of Skywalker was to find the inevitability of the story, respecting every film that came before it. And this is where the recent leaks, I find the inevitability of the story, respecting every film that came before, right? This is where JP's leaks fail to convince me. Okay. And again, this is where we get into some spoiler territory. I'm not going to get into the details. Let me just add a few more things. I do not doubt that JP has heard things, but what he's constructed with that info sounds too much like dude bro fan fiction. Okay. And I'm going to stop right there. It all sounds too much like fanboy wish fulfillment list. I really do think, and we'll be getting into this here just shortly, I really do think that trailer, whenever we get it, is going to be the deciding factor in whether or not these leaks are real. Because if there are major elements in the trailer that are directly tied to those leaks, that's a pretty big confirmation, because that means that, one, either the leaks are coming from people that have seen the trailer and then extrapolated further, or their sources are actually very legit. All right, Ashley writes this. The anticipation for the rise of Skywalker can only be compared to my waiting to open my presents on Christmas morning as a child. Yes. That's one of my favorite descriptions, by the way. And it was best used in a film that I love, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. And it is arguably I used this in EMBARK. I don't hide it. There's a lot of just sort of homages and direct references to things from other films that I love, especially in that first book. But the way that Brad Pitt describes when he first saw the Angelina Jolie character in real life within the movie, and she says, what was the first thing that crossed into your mind when you saw me? And Brad Pitt says, I thought you looked like Christmas morning. And that, to me, is like the ultimate phrase of endearment that somebody could give to somebody else. I just think that description is so spot on. And I know I'm making a lot of this, but it's one thing to say, I thought you were beautiful. It's one thing to say, I thought you were enchanting. But to describe, and in this case, if we're talking about a man to a woman, right, to describe seeing that woman and going, I thought you looked like Christmas morning, it's just like, wow, what I can't think of a better way to capture the emotion of what somebody felt in a positive way, of sort of being overwhelmed, than using that description. And so I totally, Ashley, when you're talking about it can only be compared to waiting to open up presents on Christmas morning as a child. Yeah, absolutely. I had so much fun listening to you and a few other YouTubers discussing and explaining finer literary elements embedded in the sequels. I've dug into older movies like Willow, Dark Crystal, and newer movies like How to Train Your Dragon, and I see similarities in plots echoed in each sequel. Part of the fun of seeing the movie for the first time is trying to figure out the ending. I can usually do it fairly early on in a movie. With all this build-up to the rise of Skywalker, I've had so much more time to ponder the ending, and I love it. Completely understand George Lucas's feelings regarding his story ideas. His expected end will never see the light of theatrical release. I only hope that Lucasfilm allows his ideas to see publication in the future book or a movie about making the sequels. Thanks for the comment, Ashley. I appreciate that. Silver Maiden 42240 says this. Hey, maybe the leaks are a giant conspiracy put out by Disney and Lucasfilm. Maybe they have a mole who is feeding the leakers false or abandoned story points to throw us all off. One can only hope, right? I'm hoping the majority of the leaks aren't true. One can hope, right? I'm really hoping they aren't. It would seriously throw the character development, not to mention the character arc set up in the last two movies, under the bus. Great show as always, John. Sorry for the negativity. Do not apologize for the negativity. Not at all. There's a difference between, and I hope a lot of people realize that. I take a lot of pride in how positive people think the show is. I never would describe it that way. I think there's a difference between negativity and just honesty, right? Negative for the sake of being negative and just being open and honest, and you're just being open and honest. That's cool. We don't have to love everything about the Star Wars. I don't even love everything about the Star Wars movies. I just like to focus on the positive stuff. Miranda writes this. Wow, the first read comment and listener feedback with a wonderful person who left the exclamation points and the multiple dots and shouting all over seems to be a very expressive individual and clearly is not afraid to show it for the world to see. More I have to say. So if The Last Jedi to this day is still a masterpiece, then you know that The Rise of Skywalker should be Night at the Gala with cocktails and beautiful paintings everywhere and classical music blasting in the background, and we're all invited. I need to go purchase my tux. Thank you, Miranda. For I don't own one. I have a suit, and it's going to look a heck of a lot better on me once I lose some more weight. I'm really happy, though, because this weight's kind of dropping out of my face first, right? And I'm really kind of pleased about that. I don't know. I'm not that bad. I just want to be thin. Right? All right, thinner. Sorry. Misconduct One, friend of the show, writes this. Aw, man, I'm okay if Reylo doesn't happen, but darn, what a wasted opportunity for an incredibly deeply romantic fairy tale fantasy love story. Crap, does this mean our only example of romantic love is Anakin and Padme, Han and Leia? Love being horrible and possessive and it only hurts people and tears them apart? Mm-hmm. That's what love is, though, ain't it? Sorry, misconduct. No, I know. I understand what you're driving at. I hope they go all in, man. I really do. I really do. I love seeing the Reylo artwork and the passionate, not the real passionate. Don't misunderstand. Let's not, because I've seen some of that too, and it's like, whoa, holy cow, you guys went there. He's a monster of a whole different fashion. Yeah, it's a little. So I'm not talking about that, but some of the more safe for work PG-13 artwork of romantic Reylo, I'm not gonna lie, I do find kind of enjoyable. Stumbling across some of the other stuff, it's like, whoa, dark side indeed. Hope he's wearing a helmet. Sorry. Okay. Oh, man, it's all hot in here. I hope these leaks aren't true. I'm just going to wrap that up with what Misconduct once said. Try to gain some composure here. This is a family show, people. What are you doing? Dragging it through the Dagobah swamp. Anessa Rodriguez writes, really enjoy listening to your podcast. Still? I agree with almost every point and comment you make in this. I had to follow up with that comment, didn't I? I didn't plan that, people. It's not my intention. At this point, I'm staying off the leaks, since some explanations were debunked recently. Not that I fully trusted the leaks, but, curiosity gets to you. The Last Jedi is definitely a masterpiece and has set the stage for the last installment, so I'm hoping that, as you said, some fans who resented it at first grow to understand and appreciate it for what it is after seeing 9. The hype for December is insane. Just imagine how crazy it'll be once the trailer drops in the next couple of weeks. All right, a few more here. Rome ED writes this. Rome Ed, sorry. I was going to make a joke. I let it go. Ooh, joke filter caught it. Thanks for writing, Rome Ed. I appreciate it. I watched X-Men Dark Phoenix. Oh, I'm sorry. I couldn't help but think of Rey's mystery throughout this movie. Do you think Rey's story will be similar to Jean's gray story in Dark Phoenix? No, I don't. I don't at all, actually. Now, I will say this, though. Okay, let me stop here. That is an interesting take. Let's abandon the leaks so far and say that we only know what we've seen and those leaks aren't true. J.J. Abrams made some comments heading into Force Friday that were really interesting, saying there was a piece of art commissioned, and if you follow my Twitter feed, at Jon Justice, Jon, somebody commissioned a piece of Dark Rey art, and it's just stunningly beautiful. It's just Rey stylized in the Dark Rey outfit from the trailer with the double-bladed lightsaber. And J.J. Abrams commented in an article, it might have been I think it was the Empire Magazine article. I don't have it here in front of me, so forgive me. But in the article, he talked about how there's a lot of things that happen in this film that are unexpected, and that one of those unexpected things was that Dark Rey scene in the trailer. And so I just, again, if that's just a vision, he did certainly go and kind of hype it more than I would have thought. So I don't think it's going to mirror Dark Phoenix, but boy, wouldn't it be a shock if like the core of the film, if the leaks are wrong, was actually Rey going to the dark side and having to bring her back. All right, Diskeezy Pro writes this. I think Iger is making an excuse for The Force Awakens. They had plenty of time and could have found a way to be both creative and uphold the tone of the original movies. Force Awakens was nearly beat by beat A New Hope. It was insulting somewhat to the original and to the fans who enjoyed the originals. That said, I appreciate that they intentionally added some diversity, and I have some hope for the rise of Skywalker and how it may have a chance if George Lucas is indeed involved with it. A lot on the line for JJ and the franchise. By the way, The Last Jedi is a masterpiece. Thank you, Diskeezy. Last one for this week before we dive into some trailer spoilers. Ardaraith says, I definitely don't believe the Jedi packs his stuff. because the toy release revealed that Dio was created by someone not found, like the leak said. Yeah, there have been a few small little details that have contradicted the Jedi Pax's leaks, but as I've been saying, I really do think that most likely the trailer will be the sort of deciding component on whether or not those leaks are true. All right, so we're going to get into some trailer spoiler territory. So if you want to, since we're just a few days away, if you're listening to this on Saturday, and you want to stay somewhat spoiler-free from the trailers that may be coming out soon, then you can pitch off now, and I'll say thank you so much for checking out the show this week. And please, if you like Star Wars, obviously, and you're here, and you like science fiction, and you like to read, or you know someone who likes to read, do not miss out on the EMBARK space opera series. These stories were inspired by the storytelling and the world building of George Lucas, those mythological tales that inspired him, the science fiction stories and movies that have thrilled generations that I grew up with. EMBARK will take you on a journey that includes a classic morality tale of good versus evil, romance, and friendship. Both EMBARK Book 1 and EMBARK Treasure and Darkness Book 2 are available now. They set the stage for Book 3, currently in development. I hit the 50,000 word mark just this morning. And if you're listening to this on Saturday, you can pick up EMBARK for just free. Just free. Just go get it. It's right there. Just Saturday, though. You have until midnight. So go to Amazon.com, search for Jon, Jon Justice, and EMBARK, and get the ebook for free. Gift it to a friend for free. How cool is that? Give your friend a free book. Say, hey, there's this guy. He does a Star Wars podcast, and I like him. And I don't read, but you read, so go read his book and let me know what you think. And then when you're done, if you like it, go leave a positive review. You can also pick up a Treasure and Darkness in ebook for just 99 cents. The paperbacks are $10.99 and $11.99, respectively. And you can pick up the ebook for both books, obviously, for free through Matchbook, which is still available, and the audiobooks are available. So go to Amazon.com and pick those up. It's how you can support the podcast. Again, Amazon.com, search for Jon, Jon Justice, and you can get it there.
The hyperdrive is leaking.
All right, you've been warned. Trailer spoilers. Some Yahoo on Reddit has been posting this and commenting quite a bit. Final trailer this Monday. Keep your eyes peeled Sunday for the football games and short teasers. You'll get teasers throughout the day during the NFL coverage on CBS, Fox, and NBC. I know what a few of them will be, but that doesn't mean there won't be more. The first one, black screen, Palpatine laugh, Rey wakes startled, Monday Night Football logo, and a message saying full trailer tomorrow. Second one, shuttle ramp opens, Kylo and the Knights descend down it. Kylo is masked. He lights his saber, Monday Night Football logo, and a massive message saying full trailer tomorrow. This is all, by the way, exactly the same way that this played out for The Force Awakens, for those that remember the lead up to the full trailer. Third one. Rey trains in a forest with Leia. She says, may the Force be with you. Cuts to a different scene, but same forest where they embrace. Monday Night Football logo, and a massive message saying full trailer tomorrow. Fourth one, voiceover from Finn and a black screen with the line from TFA about him being taken from a family he's never known. Cut to Finn and Jannah on space horses coming up over a hill looking battle ready. Monday Night Football, full trailer tomorrow. Fifth one, no dialogue. Shot of Pride looking beyond out a massive bay window at blackness. He's flanked on either side by Sith troopers, yes, whose backs are also towards us. Lightning lights up the sky to reveal the massive fleet of Star Destroyers out the window. Monday Night Football logo, full trailer tomorrow. There probably will be another one focused on the Resistance, but I don't know what it might contain. We're in the home stretch now. Okay, so then we got a full description from this same person of the trailer itself, okay? And after that, I'll give you the Making Star Wars Jason Ward description, and then the kicker, and that is apparently how this trailer is supposed to end. And holy cow, we could spend another hour, and probably will if this turns out to be true, on the trailer breakdown show. Again, this should be arriving on Monday, but here is what the trailer is supposed to be. Don't ask me how, I won't tell you, but I saw the trailer. I'm going off memory. I only saw it twice, so not everything will be perfect. It will air on Monday Night Football after Force Friday. Okay, here we go. Fast open Last Jedi trailer. A strange massive cube hovers over an obsidian surface. Kylo Ren's shuttle flies towards it, cut to black. Kylo, why have you brought me here? Shot of a Sith fleet, cut to black. Palpatine, to offer you unlimited power. All right, I won't do voices. Sorry. Shot of Sith troopers. Kylo then says, what do you want from me? Shot of Kylo with his back turned, facing something in a dark room obstructed by his silhouette in purple light, cut to black. Palpatine says, just bring me the girl. Close-up shot of Kylo Ren, cut to black. Kylo says, who are you? Close-up shot of Palpatine sitting up in bed, hood over his head. He looks frail. He laughs. Up-close shot of Rey waking up, panicked. Then we get the Lucasfilm logo. We see Rey training in the forest with Leia. We hear Rey saying, I keep having these dreams. Quick flash of Finn, Poe, Chewbacca, and C-3PO. Rey says he's coming for me. Poe and Finn looking ready to take on an army. The Falcon evading TIE fighters. Rey embracing Leia. Rey says, it's too dangerous, I have to go alone. Poe, Finn, 3PO, BB-8, Chewbacca all standing facing Rey, who is just outside the Falcon. Chewbacca roars. 3PO, he says, we're going with you. This Christmas shows up on the screen. We get Kylo Ren, the back of his helmet, marching down a ramp with Knights of Ren in tow. A shot of a huge explosion on the surface of a planet. A shot of Poe looking concentrated in the cockpit of a ship. A shot of Zori removing her helmet. A shot of Finn being grossed out after a slug alien gets too close. A shot of 3 people falling through sand. The saga is shown on screen. A shot of what looks to be an epic space battle. A shot of Lando shooting a blaster. A shot of Janna and Finn riding over a hill on space horses. A shot of Pride surveying the Sith fleet from a bridge. Shot of the Pisana Festival. A shot of Kylo sitting down in his father's seat on the Falcon. Comes to an end. Shows up on screen. A shot of Rey holding the dagger. Sorry, guys. If it's true, I'm sorry. Shot of Kylo grabbing Hux by the throat. Shot of 3PO holding Chewbacca's bandolier and bowcaster. A shot of Rey in absolute rage. A shot of Death Star ruins. A shot of Rey and Kylo fighting from afar. Cut to black. Slow fade in on Leia lying in a bed. She turns and looks. Leia says, Luke. Luke Skywalker stands in the doorway. Luke says, Leia. Then we get the Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. Tickets go on sale as soon as the trailer finishes. Okay, so not going to provide a lot of commentary here. Obviously, that could have been made up based off of the leaks because there's a lot of stuff in there that point exactly to the leaks. However, this is where things get more interesting in my opinion. MakingStarWars.net said this. Jason Ward put this out just yesterday. The trailer's been going around to Jason's sources at Disney, some of which go back to TFA and have been giving him accurate trailer reports in the past. Boy, I'm tongue-tied. There are minor differences in all the trailers, says Jason, making it a bit of a security risk for Jason to be talking about them, and specifically the ending, because apparently there's different endings. This is what we're getting at. With that in mind, he said he'll only comment on the commonalities found between the trailer reports. So, the commonalities between the trailer reports, and this aligns with what the other guy said. You see a figure landing on a rocky planet, walking towards a large cube. They reach the center to take a lift to the core of the planet. The figure is Kylo. Kylo approaches as an old man underground and ignites his lightsaber. He holds it to the old man's throat. The old man then laughs at him. The old man is sitting across a vertical sort of medical chair. The old man then reveals he's Darth Sidious. After that, there's various info coming in from his sources. Resistance stuff, spaceship stuff, all stuff that matched the other report. Palpatine has the last word in the trailer. Jason can't say what it is yet due to the source security. The trailer is around 2 minutes, and the Kylo and Palpatine scene is the meat of it. All right. You guys ready? If you haven't seen this yet, here we go. This is big. So, the original trailer leaker, who we'll find out is right tomorrow, whether or not we get those promos during football, said this. After the shot of Kylo and Rey fighting and the abrupt cut to black, there's a few seconds of black screen, and then scenes cut fast to a beat like a heart between like a heartbeat between a black screen and someone lowering Kylo's helmet onto his head from behind. Black screen. Palpatine says, "We will bring back the Sith." Kylo Ren looks up as if he's been bowing his head, masked. Palpatine, voice only while Kylo raises his head, says, "And you shall be called Darth." End of trailer. Okay, so here's the deal. I personally have been wondering from the get-go if this was possible before this was mentioned. The reintroduction of Sith troopers, Sith dagger TIE fighters, right? Palpatine. Okay. The comments from J.J. Abrams about how if you look at the entire 8 films leading up to 9, there's been clues left all along the way. And that damn helmet. What is the deal with that damn helmet? There it is. I wondered all along if this was going to be very sort of reminiscent to Revenge of the Sith, which I hope that it is. Now, I don't know what the resolution ends up being, but this makes all the sense in the world to me. That the helmet gets reconstructed, the Knights of Ren are standing there. Why? Because this is all about partly the rise of Palpatine again, right? Along with the, light, darkness rises, the light to meet it. Rey, that's Rey. Okay. But this movement back towards the Sith and whether or not the helmet was the catalyst to that. You put the helmet back together. Palpatine's got his guy. That's Kylo Ren. We're bringing back the Sith. I was thinking the kicker would have been if you end up seeing Kylo Ren with Sith eyes. However, the fact that the helmet gets back on his head and that's indicative of him becoming and embracing the Sith, and the helmet is a part of that, is pretty darn epic to me. Now, I don't know how that lines up if the rest of these leaks come true. That has not been a part of these leaks so far, so that calls things into question. But what do you think? Let me know. Leave a message on YouTube or email me, TalkShowNerd@gmail.com, and let me know what you think. Again, we'll all find out tomorrow. And if you're not following me on Twitter @TheMyNerdWorld or @Jon Justice, please do, because I'll be posting blasts tomorrow. Blast I use via the Blaster app. You can get it at the App Store. Search for Blaster app, all one word, in the App Store for your iPhone. The Android version is being worked on. It's free. It allows you to post audio to not only the Blaster app itself, receive notifications, but also to Twitter and Facebook like you would a tweet. I put out a lot of blasts, at least 1 or 2 a day. I'll be doing more. And tomorrow, if we start getting these leaks coming out, you definitely want to be following me on Twitter or on Blaster and get a notification to know when they come up, because I will be providing commentary after every single one of these pops up, either on TV or online, and I'm made aware of them. And then if that trailer drops on Monday, we'll know tomorrow if those clips end up dropping, like this guy said. There will definitely be another full podcast and more audio blast posted to Twitter and on the Blaster app around when the trailer gets dropped and when I can sit down back in front of the computer and record it. So go get the Blaster app. Be sure to follow me again on Twitter @MyNerdWorld and Jon Justice. And same thing on Blaster, by the way. When you get on the Blaster app, follow me on the Blaster app. It's free. @Jon Justice and @MyNerdWorld. All right, that's it. Go to Amazon.com, please, and pick yourself up a copy of EMBARK, Book 1 and Book 2, Treasure in Darkness. I would really appreciate it. As always, thank you so much for downloading the show, so much for it being short. I hope you don't mind. I don't think you do. Looking forward to hearing from you, and here's praying that we start getting some Rise of Skywalker footage tomorrow. Talk to you real soon, and enjoy the rest of your day whenever you happen to be listening to this. And again, thanks for downloading.
The Force will be with you. Always.
My Nerd World.